This is cs952, Introduction to Web Technologies and Design, and we're working on changing the color of our navigation. So this is our development file. We made a little adjustment to our navigation bar there so that we could have the little home icon. We did that using glyphicons. Now we want to work on the color of our navigation bar. There are a lot of CSS rules that determine how a bootstrap navigation bar will look, and it's just a lot to try and remember. Fortunately, we have some online resources that can help us out. So I'm going to go back here to, I have a couple different versions of this site. I'm going to open up a new tab in Google, and I'm going to type in, are you ready? I'm going to type in TW like Twitter, BS like Bootstrap, and then color, COLOR. So that's all one word if you'd like, no spaces, TWBS color, Twitter Bootstrap color, and then hit enter. And we get some results from Google, and it says TWBS color, generate your own Bootstrap nav bar. So let's do that. Excellent. This is exactly what we're looking for. So this is a tool to help us pick the color for our Bootstrap nav bar. So you can see here's a navigation bar that's it's identical to the navigation bar that we're going to have on our website, and you can pick different colors that you'd like. So for your default background color, you can click on the square and then use this little tool to drag around and pick different shades of a color, or use this bar over here to select what color you want. So if you wanted some sort of a red, drag it up there to red, and then hit choose, and now you see what your navigation bar would look like with that kind of red. And maybe for the active color, the one is once you've actually clicked on a link, what color do you want? Maybe you want like a dark blue. You can click choose, and we'll show you what that dark blue color looks like. We can select our default color, our active color. This really saves us a lot of time because it's going to generate all the code that we need, the web code, to put this in place. I've already selected some colors for my website, and I have these colors saved here on this little text file. These are some hexadecimal numbers. So this is one of the colors that I got from, extracted from my one of the images that I'd like to use. This is if you don't remember what this number means, you can go to the separate file we have on hexadecimal on colors. It'll tell you about colors. So I'm going to copy that number. And let me try for my default background. What does that look like? So if I've got a color I like, I can just paste it in and then hit choose. Oh, that's pretty good. You know, I think for my active background color, I'm actually going to go with black, which is all zeros. Let me hit choose there. And then for my active color, when you've actually selected some text, I'm going to make that white, which is all F's. Whoops, that didn't stick. There we go. Well, I'll be doggone. I'm just going to type it in. # FFFFFF and hit choose. Okay, there we go. So when an item's selected, it'll show up as white text, and then we've got that slightly darker color default text color there. So these are the colors I'm going to use for my navigation bar, and again, we can always change these later, but now we scroll on down, and this is the important part of the page. It says copy the generated sassy sass, sass, less, or CSS. Well, we're only using CSS. Remember we talked about how we're going to be using CSS. So if I click on this tab, what we have are all the CSS rules I need to create that color navigation bar. As you can see, there's a lot of rules. This would be a lot to generate on our own, but that's no problem because I'm just going to click here and then drag to highlight this text. Oops, dragged a little bit too much. Okay, right click and choose copy. So here's how we add this into our Dreamweaver website. We go over here to Dreamweaver, and we are going to add a new CSS file, and we're going to put in our CSS file those rules we just created. So we're going to go to our CSS Designer tab right here, anywhere on that gray bar, So we want to create a new source. Right now we only have one source, and that's our Bootstrap CSS, and that's a read-only file. We're not going to be changing that. We're going to create a new source, and so to do that we click on the plus button for Add a CSS source. Now we get a choice here to create a new CSS file, attach an existing file, or define end page. We want to create a new CSS file. Now we get this file dialog box that opens. We want to choose Browse. We're going to have link selected because we're going to be linking to the file, and we're going to choose Browse. Okay? So at this point, we're telling Dreamweaver where do we want to save our file. We're keeping all of our CSS files together in the same place in the folder called CSS. If I double click on CSS folder, we can see we already have a file in there called Bootstrap. That's actually where our Bootstrap file is. So we're going to save our nav CSS file in the CSS folder, and for the name I'm going to type nav. It's easy to remember. I'm using the nav CSS file to change my nav HTML. And next up, all we do is we hit save. And then hit OK. So it says it's going to create a new file. It's going to be called nav.css. It's saving it in the CSS folder. We're going to link to this file and say OK. Alright, so if we look here in our related files up at the top of Dreamweaver, we can see there's a new item there that says nav.css. That wasn't there before. And if I click on that, I can see here in code view where Dreamweaver, because I clicked on the source file, Dreamweaver opened everything up in split view. Down here we can see what's in this file. Well, this file is empty except for the standard CSS command saying what sort of character set we're using. So all we need to do at this point is just paste in that content. Go to Dreamweaver and right click and choose paste, and there we have it. So those are my CSS rules. Now notice as soon as I pasted that code into my navigation bar, and the code for my navigation bar, as soon as I pasted that into my nav CSS file, look, the colors changed for my navigation bar, just like that. Great. So let's hit save all this work, and I like that. That looks good. Looks real good.